Hello, and thank you for coming back for the second season of the Layman Experts. You are now one of our 9 listeners.
I think 9 listeners is a bit punchy. Probably overstating our figures there, but we'll take it. It's always best to oversell yourself. But anyway, by now you should know that you're able to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, YouTube and Podbean, and also follow us at Layman Experts on Twitter.
Please help us get to double figures. Hope you enjoy the season. Hello and welcome to the new season of the Layman Experts. You're joined by me, Pime Tagizada, return of the Pie Tag, and of course Alistair Yeoman.
How are you doing, Payam?
I'm doing very well, Alistair.
Excited for season 2?
I am. I'm excited to stop talking about football so much.
I mean, we love it, but this is going to be exciting and it's going to provide some new content for hopefully some new listeners, and also show off another area we are interested in.
Or layman experts in, we should
Yeah.
say. Ooh, you like that I did there?
I like that, yeah. That's marketing for you, isn't it?
Thank you
You
very
work in
much.
marketing, don't you? That's good.
I tried my best, yeah. So, Alistair, this season, what are we talking about again?
So, season 2 is technology. Strictly.
Strictly technology. All about the tech.
Exactly.
So, guys, I'm going to try and set a bit of a scene for you. Okay? So, back in the day, people say there are 2 things you can guarantee in life. Taxes and death. We think there's a third thing now.
I hope so, 'cause that sounds pretty morbid.
There's more. Technology.
Ooh.
The way we enjoy technology. The change in technology. So listen very carefully. In 1926, TVs were introduced to the mass market. Fast forward 69 years to 1995, we have emails. Then 5 years later, in the year 2000, with high-speed internet.
Payam, taking down for dinner.
Mum, I'm
Another
searching-
5 minutes! I'm just doing homework!
5 minutes, you're generous.
Takes 5 minutes to get the connection. Right. What was that website I was told by my friends in school?
Don't know what he's talking about. Then fast forward 4 years to 2004, Facebook was introduced. We were able to connect with our friends all over the globe.
Fine, 10 minutes. 10 minutes, I haven't found a profile yet. Malio07.
Right, listen Alice, let me finish, yeah?
Sorry.
Then fast forward 3 years, in 2007, we had smartphones with the first ever iPhone. You can connect with your friends all over the world from your mobile. Then fast forward again, just 6 years, Snapchat. Alistair was able to send nude pics to all his friends and maybe family. No judgment, yeah?
My head. The guy who made the Snapchat must have been so proud of himself when he's like, guys, come and have a look in here.
Oi,
Go
oi.
do this. Look what you can do. On this.
There was no GDPR back then, no privacy laws, nothing.
No, nothing.
And then just 1 year later, in 2014, we had my only girlfriend,
Oh,
Amazon Echo.
God.
You know, I talk to her every
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Lights on, lights on. She's right next to us now, so I can't actually say her name, but you know what
That's
her
the
name is.
insight into the type of relationship I'm seeking, where he just says stuff and they just do whatever he wants.
Wow,
No,
that's not true.
It's true, yeah. But anyway, I think the point you're making there, Pam, is that over the last 80 years, technology advancements have increased at shorter rates in between each advancement, right? So, yeah, Snapchat 13, talking to your mates in a new sort of form of media, 1 year later you're talking to a robot.
True. Exactly.
And I think that sets the scene very well for the first episode and the area we're going to focus on, which is, where will we get our energy from in the future? So, Payam, talk to me. When we first decided on this question, before doing any research, what were your initial thoughts? Enlighten me.
You know, because you introduced the topic, you suggested to do this as an episode. I actually thought it was going to be quite boring. A bit like physics, GCSE, you know, you learn about solar, wind, nuclear, whatever.
Yeah.
And obviously when nuclear power was brought up in class, people always looked to me, for whatever reason. But
Just to give you context on that joke, Payam's of Iranian background, so
Yes.
yeah.
That's
He's
it.
an ethnic.
I'm an ethnic.
That's the joke there.
Hairy ethnic. But then I will say that I'm pleasantly surprised by what I learned after my research.
Yeah.
It's a lot less boring than I expected. It's actually really interesting.
Ooh.
It was.
So if you're bored at this point, there is light and in the tunnel. There's hope,
That's
right?
nicely put, yeah. So, what I learned was these technologies that I learned in GCSE. There's so many use cases for them and creative use cases for them, and that's kind of what I got out of it. So, how about you? Because you introduced the topic. What was your initial thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I sort of had a few things in mind of what we could talk about. So I guess there wasn't as much of a surprise for me. So I think hopefully now we're going to divulge into some of this stuff we've read, and one of these things I'm going to talk about, is something I had a little idea of, and I've tried to sort of educate myself a little bit to try and build a picture. And the way we're going to do this, Pine, is we're going to almost have a debate, aren't we?
Yeah, a debate discussion.
Yeah.
Debate discussion. So you're going to introduce a topic. I'm going to learn more about it, ask you questions, because I think it's probably going to be quite flawed knowing you.
Ah.
Hey, started already.
Debate or discussion, you decide.
And then that bring mine up, then I let the audience decide which one they think is more interesting, plausible, practical for the people of this planet.
Ooh, for the whole planet.
The whole planet thing, innit?
No big deal. Just the whole planet.
Big deal thing, you know it is.
Yeah.
So I'll let you go first, because you are more knowledgeable than me.
So I'm going to repeat the question for the listeners at home who might have, shorter memories. The question is, where will we get our energy from in the future? Okay, and the idea behind this question is that everybody knows that there's a problem with non-renewable energy, and everybody knows that as time is flying by, more and more people are becoming aware of this, and there's more and more being done to try and combat this. And like Pam just touched on then, solar energy, wind energy, we've all heard of that stuff before. It's been around forever, but now, as more money is going into this area, that means there's going to be more innovation, more investment in new projects, and more investment in new ideas. So,
ooh, what a build up of the picture.
So, and that brings me to one of the biggest ideas that I've seen. Okay. Payam, have you ever heard of a multi-trillion pound industry? Is there one at the moment? There's not, is there? Only multi-billion.
No, I
So this what I'm about to introduce has been talked about being potentially the first ever multi-trillion pound industry. Ooh, give me some more.
Ooh, tell me more, Alistair.
Enlighten me. Right, so reusable rockets.
I've heard about them. They were in the news not too long ago.
Yeah. So what do you know about them? What's the concept?
Essentially, a rocket that you can reuse to send back into space. That's the basic idea that I got.
Yeah, basically. So Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, who's like quite into sort of space entrepreneurship,
and also exploiting people. Just to throw that out there.
Yeah, he's got his fingers in all pies, right?
Yeah, and the exploitation game.
I've actually seen those videos of is it the Amazon worker? He says they got a minute and a half to go to the toilet. Yeah. He runs a slittly oiled ship. This guy, he doesn't like to lose any profits. Be it that modern day slave labour. So look, I'm not going to comment on Jeff Bezos's business ethics. They're questionable, but like all clever people. And they can be idiots as well, right? They can be driven on one thing, and this guy is driven on at the moment. Now that Amazon's been a complete success and continues to sort of be a success, he started to move into a new space. So he's thinking about something called mineral mining, and the idea is that on this planet, we have limited resources, so we mine under the ground and we destroy. Deforestation happens and we ruin the earth. We mine and we frack for oil, and all this stuff is bad. And we're doing this to try and get energy resources. We can get energy resources from the solar system, and it's actually an unlimited, infinite amount of energy and materials to use in the solar system. And this sounds very far-fetched, but what's made this idea possible is the reusable rocket. So Jeff Bezos compared non-reusable rockets, so rockets up until a year ago.
The traditional ones.
The traditional ones, right? Yeah. The NASA ones, the bog standard ones, you could say.
Yeah, the ones that kids used to play with.
Yeah.
Can you name me a single spaceship? I think I'd struggle.
Apollo something?
That's it, Apollo. That's it.
Apollo something. This is how much we know, guys.
Apollo 30.
Yeah, you're consulting true layman experts here. Anyway, he said that when we had the non-reusable rockets, it was almost like flying a 747 from one country to the other, and then throwing the plane away. So the idea with this reusable rocket is now that the cost of travel has gone down, so it's gone from 60 million per journey to £200,000 for rocket fuel and replacement parts of a rocket. It's now becoming viable that you can go up into space, get some materials, come back down at a cost which is more cost efficient than trying to mine, and obviously less damaging than actually getting this from planet Earth.
That's okay. Yeah. Thank you for that introduction to this topic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things.
What do you think so far?
There's no doubt that.
Ooh.
There's no doubt,
okay.
There's no doubt. That's obviously a great move, a bold move.
Yeah.
I'm somebody that respects bold moves. That's why I was so sick of Arsene Wenger. I'm glad there was a change. Whether it works or not.
Yeah, that was bold after 15 years, wasn't it? That's really bold.
So I'm glad to see some sort of change. But there are some problems I think questions that come into my head.
Please, mate. Please ask the questions.
So,
Please.
First question. There's actually a few. So, question
God, put your notepad away. Bloody hell! I see this is an ambush. I thought we were having a
discussion.
This is a debate, isn't it? Go on. What's the first one? Fire away.
So, who owns this stuff in space then? Because I know there was a treaty signed. I think the Outer Space Treaty in 1967, signed by. Throwing that out there.
Yeah. Is that something you learned in GCSE physics?
Actually, it was UK, ex-Soviet.
Or were you heavily doodling this earlier today?
Wow, he's getting these. The pressure's on Alistair. The pressure's completely on Alistair now.
Go on.
It's alright. Do you not want to ask a tough question?
No, please.
Do you think it won't hold up to the scrutiny? This idea.
Please go.
Actually, who owns it? Because there was a treaty signed in 1967 that nothing in space belongs to a sovereign nation.
Yeah.
So, how's that going to be?
Love that question. And actually, the reason I love it so much is I've got an answer.
Ooh.
Okay, so in 2017, Luxembourg have taken the lead, actually, I'd say, on legal framework of mining rights in space. So in August 2017, frameworks were put in place which allow private companies to exploit space resources. What does that mean? That means that if you have the rights to materials, you can bring it back down to Earth, and you have that material is yours. It's your company's. You own that material.
I think that might create some problems. Honestly, I do, because let's say
fire.
Let's say the moon, for example, just something arbitrary in my head. Who owns what's in the moon?
This concept is if you bring it back down, and obviously this legislation is in a very infant form, and like any legislation, as problems develop or as the use case for mineral mining becomes more and more evident what exactly it really means, there's going to be more legislation. It's going to get tightens up, but at the moment it basically means that if you go into space and get something, then you own it. When you bring it down, it's yours.
Okay, but you don't own that particular land that you took it from.
No. Okay. You own the material that you brought down. At this stage, this is how I understand it. It's a very simple concept.
Do you have any fears that a certain group of people might oligopolise the industry and they might be able to sell these natural resources at whatever price they decide?
I think for two reasons that wouldn't be the case. The first reason, I like the word, I can't actually say that word.
Oligopoly?
Yeah, I can't say it. I know what it means. Yeah. It means but I just can't say it. I've got not a good ditch in certain words.
Don't worry.
Anyway, let's move on. Basically, there's authorities, there's market competition groups for any industry which prevent this from happening, because obviously that's a massive problem if someone starts charging whatever they want. Secondly, the whole point to this is that there's an abundant amount of material in space. If there's an abundant amount of material, the reason why gold is so valuable and so expensive is because there's not really much of it. If you brought down a massive asteroid that was gold rich, more gold than it was on the whole of the Earth, and that's not a crazy idea, that these asteroid belts have unbelievable amounts of materials, valuable materials like gold, then all of a sudden the price of gold and the market and the value of it drops dramatically. And the whole idea behind this is that all of a sudden you have unlimited resources, so you're not going to be charging silly amounts for it because there's so much of it. And just before I finish this point, according to NASA, right, this gives you the idea of the amount of materials that are available in space. According to NASA, the materials that lie in the belt of asteroids between Mars and Jupiter hold wealth equivalent to a staggering $100 billion for every person on Earth.
Ooh, huge.
That's a lot of money.
But then the concern doesn't go away that if the wealth will belong to a certain group of people, and you're gonna put the argument forward. You did put it forward that if there's so much supply, they won't charge us a high price. but they'll still charge a high price, I think, because they know people need it. So not necessarily gold, but things such as, I don't know, oil, gas, whatever it might be.
Okay,
Like more useful
Yeah.
resources that we're talking
Yeah.
about. If a certain group of people own it,
Yeah.
they know they can charge the price because people need it no matter how much resources they have.
Yeah, I just you mentioned oil. Just want to correct you there. So oil, as far as I'm aware, that's not something they can mine. Just so people know, we're not complete layman's. The type of material, backhander there in your face. The type of material, the type of resources in space that we could get. Water, there's a lot of water. You can expect it to become hydrogen and oxygen. There's iron, titanium, cobalt, which is used for lithium batteries for electric powered cars, which is actually quite cobalt mining.
Are you saying what's the top of your head? Because there's some great...
Yeah, just rolling them off. Now, I've got a few notes, guys, I'll be honest. So, you know, I've got the important stuff. Giving you knowledge, you know.
Yeah.
You can pause the podcast. I can't pause what I'm saying. Precious metals such as gold, platinum. So there's that sort of stuff. But what you're saying about the point about where this can go, I see what you're saying, and that's always a risk for any industry that evolves, like Facebook or something. But I would also say that's not really the point in this podcast. The question is, where we get our energy from.
Yeah, you're right.
It's sort of going off topic there.
It's not a legislation
Ooh,
podcast.
shut you down there, didn't I? No, but I understand your worry, but I do have confidence that, you know, the human race these days tends to sort of manage things like, you know, these monopolies.
We semi-manage them. I mean, a good example is artificial intelligence was meant to improve our lives so much more than it currently has. Because
I haven't even seen any signs of it, to be honest, mate. Have you?
What, artificial intelligence?
Yeah, not really.
Well,
you read about newspaper articles, but you don't see it day to day, do you?
Not for us, because we aren't. I'm gonna say we aren't low-skilled labour. It's meant to be for low-skilled labour that will see the difference.
Okay, yeah, sure.
But in fact,
it's like Amazon, an Amazon warehouse, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then one last thing: how often would they go into space? Because it does take a lot of fuel to go into space, and that's damaging the planet all the time.
Yeah, no, agree with that. Can't argue with that. Obviously, at this stage, no one's doing it, so it's hard to know how they would manage that. Correct. But at the same time, there's technologies getting introduced, well, not getting introduced, that are being worked on to do with renewable rocket fuel. So I mentioned that water was one of the resources they would get from outer space. Rocket fuel is driven by hydrogen, and you can what's the word, like I don't know what the word
is. Hydrogen a much cleaner way of transporting fuel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can separate. It's just hydrogen, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't cause any pollution. It's not CO2.
So why didn't they use it now? Is that what they're using now? I don't think so.
I think, I don't
Why don't
know.
all cars
I
use
read
it
some
then?
sort of thing about reusable rocket fuel. I'm not sure. Maybe, I think it might be the abundance of hydrogen. They haven't got enough hydrogen on the planet to be able to do this, but in the same proportions. I don't know. I'm freestyling there.
Okay,
I'm freestyling on NASA stuff. How overly confident is that?
Mate, you've got a master's degree, so you've got to feel confident, you know what I mean?
You've asked me a question I don't know the answer to. But what I will say is this. Okay, whether you like this or not, Pine, this is an expanding industry, and this is the future. And just to put it into numbers for you, total private investment in commercial space ventures has risen from 2014 from $534 million to last year, 2017, 3.1 billion, and that's private investment in like commercial space ventures. So just like basically innovation stuff.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. I'm not saying that my views are going to stop it.
Yeah.
We can start a revolution
Yeah.
to stop reusable rockets,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking that
Yeah.
it has to have some legislation and regulations to control what's happening. That's what I think.
Spot on. Completely agree with that. But from an energy perspective, where energy has come from, do you reckon that's a... So your main issue is almost like, I'm a bit scared of how this is going to be managed.
So what kind of the energy they bring back? Let's say they bring back. Give me like a resource they'll bring back that we can.
Cobalt.
Sorry.
Cobalt is a good one. Because cobalt is used to make lithium batteries.
Okay, so that cobalt that comes in here.
And lithium batteries are used for electronic cars, which are becoming the future.
Oh, so there's cobalt. They will not pollute the planet. I'm not really sure what cobalt is. That's the point.
So just to give you context, cobalt at the moment is mined. It's mined deep in these tunnels, and actually a lot of children die because they have to go in these small holes, only large enough for small children to go in. So that's a real problem with the cobalt industry at the moment.
But they think the cobalt, when we use it on this planet, when we take it from space, won't it still pollute this planet?
No, cobalt is used to create rechargeable batteries.
Oh, so it's actually good. So clean energy. Okay.
So it would support. So I don't know if you know this, but now actually already there's electronic in the buses.
Yeah. I've seen there's
Yeah,
electric
yeah.
charging points all
So,
on Islington North as well.
those use lithium batteries which have cobalt in them.
Ah,
You need cobalt for lithium batteries, but there's a scarce amount of cobalt, and actually mining for cobalt is almost an oxymoron to the benefits of an electric battery, because how damaging the mining process is.
Mate, got it. Okay, thank you very much, Alistair. Done well there. Still up to the scrutiny.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought you were going to ask like a really shitty question, and I was going to come unstuck.
Oh no,
I managed to bat you away when we got too close.
I feel
Thank
like
you.
I want to ask questions that the layman would ask. You know,
Oh, okay, yeah.
that actually influence.
Yeah.
And again, one last question: how soon
No,
would it
okay.
influence? How soon will we see the benefits of these sort of things?
They did question actually.
I've got a lot of good questions for this.
Yeah. So, I mean, what would you guess?
I'd guess, mate, my grandkids maybe.
Your grandkids. When do you plan to have children?
Not
Get
soon.
married?
Not soon.
Yeah, I was going to
Not
say.
soon, not in the near
you need to find a
future.
woman first.
Hey!
Wee.
Banter.
Lad banter.
Banter,
Bit of
banter.
lad banter from the Layman experts there for you.
Banter.
Yeah. So obviously you think to yourself, wow, this is going to be 50 years, 70 years. This is like a sci-fi
Ting.
thing.
Street followers.
Yeah. For the roadman out there. Shout out the roadman. Listening about renewable energy.
Yeah.
You think it would be 50, 70 years, but it's actually... I saw this Q&A YouTube video with Brian Tots. The
Cool guy.
the cool sort of soft-sounding northern genius physicist.
Who's also a former rock star, I believe.
Is it?
I think so.
That's pretty. He's got a look, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He looks a bit rocky. He looks a bit tall.
Thin, rocky, you know what I mean?
Well, like a proper rock star, like with releases and
I
stuff.
think it was Top of the Pops thing.
Really?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Wow, he's got it all, hasn't he?
Yes. Babes love him.
Yeah, they must do.
They must, they do.
And he said that he's been to these conferences, unsurprisingly, with people like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, because obviously they all physicists and space entrepreneurs, as they call themselves, go hand in hand with their ideas and what they want to try and understand about and all that sort of stuff. And he said that they predict within 10 years that people are going to be making these ventures up to space, businesses, companies, to mineral mine. And I suppose as well, the fact that legislation has already been passed in 2017 shows that it's in the foreseeable future.
Okay, cool. We're looking forward to it.
Cool.
We'll do another episode in 10 years' time. See the progress.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I'll start doing my one.
Like the World Cup predictions.
Oh yeah. But mine was better than yours.
Yeah. No, Mr. Palm, please enlighten us.
So you spoke about something which is like a rich boy's kind of playground. That's what it was. That kind of shows the type of person you are.
Yeah.
Very snobby, think you're better than everyone else. I'm looking at how these new technologies can really improve, essentially, the most vulnerable in our society.
Like you, then.
I'm vulnerable in different ways, you know.
Anyway.
Okay, let's talk about something called mobile pay-as-you-go solar energy, essentially.
Yeah.
So at the moment, 600 million Africans do not have access to clean electricity. And they rely on something called kerosene, which is very dirty and expensive for them. And I'll give you an example of how they essentially run their life in an electrical sense. If somebody wants to charge their mobile phone, they can only do it like twice a week. They have to walk miles, hours, to a charging point, pay 25 cents per charge, which is a lot of money for them, then walk hours back. That means they haven't got a mobile phone, they have no connectivity to the outside world, and become very isolated.
Yeah.
So these
A bit lonely. No text from their mates.
no texting them, no Facebook
Yeah.
thing, no
Yeah.
Snapchat thing. I know you like your Snapchats.
Yeah.
So these companies in Africa, what they've done is a very creative business, and essentially it's a decentralized energy service company. And what they do is they will give a solar panel and essentially it's like a smart meter to these people that live in rural areas that struggle to get any electricity, and they will track everything on over the cloud system. And whenever this person in the rural area wants to have more energy, they'll send an SMS message, a text message, to a number. Then they receive the number back, and they pay using their mobile top-up credit.
Okay.
And they only pay for what they need.
Yeah.
So then they receive a code back. They put the code into the smart meter, and then they have energy that way. So it's an amazing way for people in rural Africa, and now it's expanding to Peru, Indonesia, Pakistan, to have electricity now.
Okay, so first of all, what like they how much do they pay for the solar panel
this to begin with.
Yeah.
Now, well, it's a company
Like,
called a company called Azuri doesn't start giving any upfront costs at
So
all.
you get a free solar panel, and you see you have to tax to get the electricity, and supposedly this electricity is a lot cheaper than what they would have been paying.
Oh, 100 times cheaper.
Yeah.
So again, so I told you that if they want to charge their mobile phone, before using kerosene in miles away from where they live, it was 25 cents per charge. Now it's going to be around 20 cents per day they'll be spending on all their electrical needs.
Okay.
And actually, I want to give you an example of how expensive 20 cents per charge is. The average American for an iPhone pays 25 cents for a whole year to charge their phone. So that's how much they were paying, incredibly more than what we would pay here.
Yeah, just because of an inefficient sort of infrastructure or whatever.
Exactly.
Whatever you want to call it.
And now that they can have all their electrical needs for an average 20 cents per day, it's brilliant. But I will say one thing about this: 20 cents per day is arguably still too much. The UN is saying that should hopefully go down to 10 cents per day, because nobody should be spending more than 10% of their salary on electricity.
Okay.
And right now they're getting $2 per day as part of their salary,
Okay.
so they need to make that a little bit lower still.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic start, I think.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so basically, UN thinks that everyone throughout the world should be paid so much. Is that what they mean by that? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Interesting. Okay. First of all, what happens if something breaks? I mean, a solar panel, if it breaks, what happens then?
Okay, so I'll give a bit more context about this whole thing.
Yeah.
This isn't a very established industry.
Yeah.
In the last 5 years, it's raised $600 million in funding, which is more than you would think, because the labour in Africa is so cheap. So it is good, but it's nowhere near as comparable as what you were explaining with your piece of technology. And a big problem they are having, which they're solving now as well, is last mile delivery. So in order to get out to these people that live in rural areas, it's very difficult, because maybe they live 10 kilometres away from the nearest village. That's why they have to work closely with local businesses within that village to help transport them to these rural places, which actually is good because it develops the local economy as well, but it does create a challenge of, if something is broken, let's say, is it worth it for an engineer to travel hours and kilometres just to fix one solar panel?
Okay. So basically, like in slightly larger settlements in Africa, they're gonna have one business who goes, right, we're gonna be the person who provides the solar panels to the people, and then if something breaks, they replace it through that little shop, whatever it is, in the local village or local small town, and then they have the interaction with the company who creates the solar panels.
Well, less so, because they need an engineer to go fix it as well.
Okay.
And that engineer will have to come from HQ at the moment.
Yeah.
They haven't got the infrastructure to have engineers in these villages around the world, around Africa, sorry.
Yeah.
But these local businesses, they are useful for getting them out there, but the engineer has to still be there. So is it worth it for the engineer to go from HQ to wherever this person lives in no man's land just to fix one solar panel?
Okay, interesting. So what countries has it been trialled yet or not?
Oh yeah, it's going at the moment.
Going at the moment.
Mozambique and Tanzania are really good places to start, and they've been successful there because the mobile technology has improved so quickly.
Yeah.
Now they're fantastic mobile networks. They're like almost comparable with what we have in the West.
Yeah.
It's just maybe they haven't quite got data. They got the ability now to SMS voice call wherever they are in the country. And that's why it's a big problem in Peru, for example, where the mobile coverage still hasn't developed yet, and they're struggling there specifically. So there does need a lot of things.
Is that just the altitude in Peru?
Possibly. I don't know.
Fair,
I don't know why Peru's not got good mobile coverage.
Sure.
So there are these things to think about. But I think it's a great start, and it's so important that this technology is here to support the electrical needs of people that need it the most.
Okay, I guess one problem though would be, like you say, they're giving them for free for these people, the actual solar panels. That must cost them an awful lot of money to be able to give. Imagine to give a whole country solar every that must cost a lot of money. Setup cost must be a lot, and then trying to drag back that cost, it's almost like it would be a not-for-profit thing to start off with, or
I mean, you can articulate them as social enterprises, but even any startup company, they don't make a profit for the first God knows how many years until a big investor comes and saves them.
Okay.
So I mean, Engie recently acquired. Engie's a huge energy company. Recently acquired Phoenix International because they want to enter the market. They know where it's growing, and Bloomberg think it's growing even further. They predict there'll be 20 million TVs in Africa which are going to be solar panelled in the near future.
Wow. Okay. So the Tanzania example. Do Do you know? I mean, how much money is being piled into this? Do you know how much sort of
Again,
what
so
sort of
the whole
figures?
industry is $600 million, but
And where's that coming from? Is that sort of entrepreneurs or investors or what is it?
entrepreneurs, investors, and now people like Elon Musk are getting involved.
Okay.
So I think it's coming from largely people that want to get involved in this sort of
It's
technology.
creating a bit of noise.
It is, and it was so important for someone like Elon Musk to get involved because these companies really struggled initially to get finance.
Yeah.
They went to their local banks in Africa, and there was no confidence in this product because it was such a new product.
Yeah.
They needed some sort of help, and that help initially did come from charities and stuff.
Yeah.
They saw the benefit of supporting these people,
Yeah.
and now it's growing, and hopefully we'll see in the future it is a profit-making thing to be sustainable, like however many years time.
I suppose as well, like once you get a continent like Africa up and running, electricity, it creates a new market, right? So someone like Elon Musk, I'm not saying he's the most charitable star in the world. He might be doing it as a business venture, you know, thinking this is the start of a potential big money maker.
I think definitely he is, because imagine if you get more technology to these people, then you can get them to start using iPhones. You can get them more connected with the whole internet. You can potentially start building, using them factories there. Now they have access to electricity.
Yeah.
You can do this on a mass scale. These decentralized energy service companies, they can give them not just one solar panel but thousands of solar panels and expand further and further, because there's so much land in Africa that's not being used because there's no way of using it. A bit like out back of Australia, there's no way of using it. It's so middle of nowhere. And this could be a first start of really pushing these countries to developing further, essentially.
I mean, I suppose maybe this is a naive comment, but I'd imagine in Africa you wouldn't struggle for solar, for sunlight anywhere.
No, not at all. That's why it's so useful. And so the energy they're getting is pure clean energy as well.
Pure clean energy, wow. Disadvantages well, I suppose I could go really like future Black Mirror worst case scenario on you like you did to me.
Go on, what is it?
Okay, so if you're creating uncentralized energy sources, you don't know what the energy is being used for, you can't monitor it, can you?
Well, it's decentralized.
Decentralized. Decentralized. So you say it could be used for bad things.
Give me an example of how it can be used for bad things that aren't currently being used
for
for bad
I'm
things.
trying to think for anything else other than the weed farm.
But even a weed farm, let's say. I mean, you could use centralized energy for it. It's not like
you could tell someone's bill how much energy. Oh, true, you could do it for the text messages anyway. Yeah, that was a bad question. That was.
I like what you think. I like what you think.
I'm trying to think more business ventures, right?
Yeah,
maybe we should do to Africa instead of a weed farm.
Yeah, I love it.
Is there any bad? Obviously, the setup costs and I mean, once one country's been set up, I'd imagine that it would create a bit of a market for other countries to do it. Bad stuff. A lot of big setup costs. What about if there started to be a lot of vandalism of the solar panels?
You can't vouch for that sort of thing, because otherwise, why buy a nice car? Because somebody's going to vandalise it.
Yeah, true.
That sort of mentality.
True. I'm just trying to pick holes here. I'm struggling.
No, there are holes.
It actually sounds really good.
Yeah, I mean, think of it, there are holes we spoke about. The last mile delivery, you have to work closely with the local business, which does help.
Yeah.
But I think this will actually really force a country to improve its transport infrastructure, which is what I hope it's ambition of any country to do. Every country wants everybody in their country to have access to a road, to a railway. And imagine if someone like Elon Musk is going to Tanzania and saying, listen guys, we're going to invest some money so more people can have access to roads, build more roads, infrastructure, railways.
I've got another one. What if...
Oh, yeah, what if?
Here's what if, right, okay, so African people get really used to, living like Westerners increasingly, like the way, how much electricity they use. What if it gets to the point where they use more electricity than their solar panel creates? And there's a deficit, and all of a sudden the prices rocket as a result of that.
What do you mean the deficit? Oh, so you're saying that
they're using more electricity than there's being created through solar panels in a day.
I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on how solar panels work, but they can add more solar panels, right? And then create a solar panel farm near where they are, and then do it that way. Because I know in China, for example,
smart boy, this boy. You've obviously read up on this.
I did, but actually,
true, you can just read more, can't you?
It's true. But also, I went in China to a city it's actually part owned by Singapore as well.
Yeah.
It's an eco-friendly city,
and
it was a ghost town where we went because it wasn't successful at all. But the idea was it was all powered by solar. Yeah. We went to the solar village that it was in as well. It was very outside the main city, so it wasn't very popular to live there. But I think you can do this in a scalable way.
Okay.
Any
I'm
more
trying to think of anything. No, to be honest, that sounds really good. I can't actually. It's actually really good. Great idea, and it'd be great to see, that continent having that sort of stuff. Because then, when they have electricity, it means they can do other things. They can start to, get better internet access or access.
Become entrepreneurs themselves.
Exactly.
Businesses.
Try and develop their own societies a bit more in their own hands, isn't it?
I love it. Yeah, I think so. It shows a big difference between my technology, which really helps people, and your technology is kind of like a sci-fi fantasy.
I think
Trying to make it a bit more bitty now. We're too nice to each other then, I thought.
I know. Yeah. Well, your one is spot on. I think to be honest though, your one is like helping solve a continent who are way behind the rest of the world, and that's spot on. I think. Meanwhile, okay, and this is why I think the two things sort of interlink in a weird way. So the problem with global warming is that temperature increases. Africa will be the first place where it will become uninhabitable, because that's one of the hottest places to live, right? As temperature increases, it will become dangerous, uninhabitable.
True.
How do we stop global warming? We find other places to get resources from.
Clean resources. Yeah, I actually think they can complement each other.
Yeah.
I don't think...
Because the Western world, meanwhile, is just messing up the planet, isn't it, basically?
Yeah, we are.
Increasingly.
Yeah, so initially I thought it might be more of a debate thing, whose is better, but they're so different technologies.
Yeah, so different in what they're trying to achieve, who they're servicing as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I'd like to, I'm glad that both our technologies were pretty good.
Yeah.
None of us had humdingers.
I think as well. We mentioned at the start, like these technologies, they have existed in this, like rockets have been around since whatever, and all they've done is made it reusable, like use an existing technology and use that technology and edited it to create a new market, a new marketplace out of space, mineral mining. And it's the same with yours, like, solar panels have been around forever, but they've used it in a clever way
With
to
mobile
create a new market.
technology to create a new market. Yeah, perfect.
And that's exactly, actually, if you look at, I mentioned Jeff Bezos before, when he did Amazon back in 1994, internet existed, shopping existed, he just combined existing technologies to create new markets. And I think that's the sort of, now so much technology already exists, it's almost like that's how we create new avenues.
Yeah, creative ways to use them. Brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a fantastic place to end it, Alistair.
Yeah, I actually thoroughly enjoyed that one.
Nice.
So that was the first episode of
the tech season. Right, thank you for listening, guys.